Hello, this is Martin, KI4CFS, and
This is Paul, KE0VWZ.
the question I want to explore today is what is the cheapest way to get on ham radio once you have your technician license? How can you start? Paul, I'll let you begin.
Ham radio can be extremely cheap to get into or as expensive as you want it to be as well. One of the first things that I did was look into some low-cost radios because the barrier of entry is less than $50. I was able to buy a UV5R BaoFeng radio. It came as a complete package. It came with an extra battery, aftermarket antenna, charging base, a case for it, I believe, and some other accessories for, I want to say it was under $40. I was able to get in extremely inexpensively.
You can find an inexpensive, I'll say under $70 radio, one of the Chinese versions, and some people like them and some will poo-poo them, but my view is whatever gets you on the airways is the right radio to start with. Then I put in, if you want to learn about some of the brands that are known over the years, Yaesu and ICOM both have fairly inexpensive radios. I'll mention one. There's an ICOM IC T70A HF, and it's a dual band, which I like. And then there's a Yaesu FT65R 5-watt dual band. And the reason I like this idea of dual band is it gives you the UHF VHF bands, which will cover the beginning bands you can use as a technician. They have at least 5 watts, and we're talking from about $150 down to about $80, and then you would get a brand name established radio. So don't rule that out if you have a few more pennies. And for those that might poo-poo the other brands, these are pretty solid. The biggest thing to me with the brand names is they're often a little easier to get started on. Usually the Chinese ones, you really have to have the software hooked up to your computer to get it working on the dials is not that easy, but there are lots of YouTube videos on
it. And that's true. I think what I've found too is actually my first radio was a little bit more higher end, but ultimately I also bought the UV5R at the same time. And most importantly, we're talking about getting into the hobby first. I don't want anyone to be turned away that this is a wealthy person's hobby or someone that has a tremendous amount of money or maybe has a better job. More often than not, until you really truly find out what you want to do in the hobby, you maybe don't need to spend $1,200 on an HF rig or $350 or $500 on the flagship Kenwood radio that they have out now, which is, I want to say it's the D74 or 74D. It's a nice radio, but until you really realize if you need all of those bells and whistles, it's okay to maybe buy a less expensive radio. But I kind of liken it to you can't buy a Ford Taurus and expect it to maybe perform like a Jaguar, but it'll still get you to work.
Yeah, excellent. And the other thing is getting a handheld. Now, this is a little bit more expensive. This is my ICOM ID51, but you'll always have a utility for this. No matter what you get, there'll always be use for that if you're out walking or something else. So you'll never go wrong in getting a handheld as the first one. And then we go to mobile, and that's where it's designed to be in a car or a base unit, have a separate antenna. It gets a little more complicated, but this is the beginning. And then I want to back up. There's something even easier to get into, and that's the EchoLink app. Now, some of the older hands might go, this isn't ham radio. You're just on your smartphone. But I disagree, because you can actually talked over the ham radios through the EchoLink system, and we'll have another video on that in the future, but I do want to show it here. This is it, and then you go into repeaters on it, and you can, here's an EchoLink test. I'll start so I can do it. Sure. Connect to it. Okay, so then
welcome to the EchoLink test server. This server records your transmissions and plays them back to help you adjust your transmitted and received audio. Please feel free to connect as often as you like.
So then from there, I'm going to click the little transmit here, and it flashes to this, and this is KI4CFS testing out Echolink.
And it flashes to this, and this is KI4CFS testing out Echolink.
So that's it. Most people have a smartphone. Some have the flip GED phones, but most have a smartphone, and they can actually play on Echolink. It's an app. You do need to have an amateur radio, at least technician license to get on it. But that's the beginning of it. So right there, you can practice talking to people, and you can find out from the local club. Now, have you played at all with Echolink yourself?
Believe it or not, Echolink was actually one of the first things I downloaded before my radios came in the mail. I was lucky enough to meet a gentleman on Reddit that wanted to talk over some things with me about just getting into ham radio and any questions and stuff that I had. So I've utilized Echolink quite a bit. It's easy. Martin really wasn't that far off with how you set that up. It's that easy. You just need to register with your call sign, and you're basically up and running in 15 to 20 minutes. And you can talk with your friends that are licensed as well.
Yeah, it's fun, and I think that's wonderful. And Echolink is a advanced, often voice over IP, sometimes and then connected to towers, but we'll have a whole show on that. So what we've now talked about is we've talked about a inexpensive UHF VHF radio, and I really prefer people at least go for one that has UHF and VHF. That opens up more ways to talk on it. And that's the first piece. And we have the Chinese version, and they're always changing models, but you can get something like that. If you want to spend a little bit more money, we go into the entry-level UHF, VHF, Yaesu or ICOM. I'm a big ICOM fan, and then other people are big Yaesu fans. So it's, you know, whatever team you like. And then the next thing that you can get started is getting into the HF. And remember, as a new ham, we've got UHF, VHF, and then high frequency or HF, which is actually, those are longer wave forms. Those are, we have the UHF and VHF is a higher frequency, and the HF is the stuff that bounce around the atmosphere and the long range. That's the old school with the antennas up in the air, everything else.
Absolutely. If you're worried about the cost of entry to amateur radio, it's never been lower than it has been in the last 5 years, and you have plenty of opportunities out there. Let us know if you have any questions or other ideas as well. I'm sure Martin's happy to hear them.
Yes, and we'll put links below from your recommended to mine. I'm also going to put the Yaesu and the others. I do want to mention there are two fine distributors and many distributors of radio, but two I've worked with is Ham Radio Outlet and Gigaparts. They're both good. They both have good customer service. Ham Radio Outlet I like because when I go to DC, there's a Virginia store hidden back there. I can walk in the store, but they're both good, and there are many others as well, and you can find that. I would talk to people in your local, find the local ham radio club, get in front of some people, get their local advice, because they're the ones that are going to help you the most as well.
I agree. The vendors that you just listed off, Martin, I feel in my research and being a newly licensed ham, finding reputable and honest dealers, those are the places that you can order from safely and shouldn't run into any significant problems.
Thanks for everyone that joined us. Make sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you get updates. This is Martin Brossman, KI4CFS.
This is Paul Garrett's KE0BWZ.
And send your questions so we can get some more videos made that help people out and help promote this wonderful hobby.